Everyone, I'm Jade. What we're talking about today is a London accent, and it's called Multicultural London English by linguists, but I'm going to call it real London English. It's the accent that a lot of people speak like. If you come to London and you're just walking around the street, you're going to hear this accent a lot, yeah? And I made a different video about this accent, all the words that you can use to sound like this, all the slang and stuff. That's a different video, but in this video, I'm going to talk about the grammar because you know what? A lot of people, when they hear this kind of accent, they say, oh, that's lazy speech, or they're not speaking correctly. But actually, this is a variety of English. It does have its own rules of pronunciation and grammar. It's not like people just make it up themselves and they're all just sounding a bit wrong. You know, it's a style of English, like you've probably heard of RP is a particular style, posh style of English. This also has rules. So I'm going to tell you some of those rules. What I'll mention first is it's a London accent, but the London accent you've probably heard of is Cockney English. And I would say that not so many people speak with a Cockney accent anymore. If they're a youngish person, they don't really speak with a Cockney accent. It's kind of dying or is dead. And this accent has replaced it. But what we see in this accent is a lot of similar details that we have in the Cockney accent. So I'm going to tell you all about those similarities. First, I just want to talk generally about the qualities of this accent. What do you actually hear from this accent? So the pace of the accent is quite slow. Like you don't really rush what you're saying, although if it's in a hip hop track or a grime track and you're listening to music, it can be really, really fast as well. But in general, the pace is slow. If you can, you've got to make your voice lower. You've got to speak from not high in your throat. You got to lower what you're saying. Speak from your lungs. Speak low. Keep it deep. Also, I'm going to say it's sharply iambic. That means you go up, down, up, down. When you're speaking, it's like there's different steps in what you're saying. Stress, unstress, stress, unstress, stress, unstress. And I think that altogether, it gives this a musical quality, on my ears anyway, as a native speaker. It's not a very harsh sounding accent. It's Cockney on the other hand is a lot sharper and like spoken higher in the throat, yeah, and it might be the kind of accent that gets on your nerves. No offense, Cockneys. I'm just making a comparison between the music of the two varieties. So, bearing this in mind, what are the actual rules of speaking like this? So a T sound becomes a D sound at the beginning of words. So instead of saying that with a T at the end, it's dat, there, dare, them, dem, then, den. Also, these words here, I'll say them in proper English. Something, nothing, anything. Compare these to Cockney English. Something, nothing, anything. Because in Cockney English, you change the ing to a K and you change the th to an F. So in Cockney English, it's like that. Something, nothing. But in this accent, we're putting a glottal stop in the middle of the word. So instead of saying something, in, nut in, anything. So it's quite different to Cockney English in this respect, saying those words. But it's the same as Cockney English in that for both varieties, both these different accents, we do something called H dropping. We don't say the H all the time. At the beginning of words. So, for example, the word have becomes av. Have you seen that? Have you seen that? That was the word that. Have you seen that? not grammatically standard English, but something that could be said in this variety. And I mentioned to you just now a glottal stop. Maybe you don't know what a glottal stop is. It's when we don't say a T sound in London accents. So Cockney English, this accent, also the accent that I have, which is called Estuary English, sometimes, quite a lot, I'm not saying T. I just make a sort of absence of sound, not saying something. And instead of T, there's nothing. So, for example, this is what you got. I said that with T's. I'll say it without T's now. What you got. What you got. Oh, with no T. So we're very keen of glottal stops in London. We don't like to say T's that much. Is it lazy pronunciation? Well, we must all be lazy because you go around, that's what you hear, glottal stops. And in comments on my other videos, people have always left quite funny comments where they say things like, when I came to London, I remember standing at the bus stop and this guy came up to me and he said, have you got a lighter? And the guy's maybe confused, doesn't know what he's talking about. And finally realizes the guy was saying, do you have a lighter? And then from that realizing, oh, maybe T is not said here. So that's something to bear in mind, you people who dislike lazy pronunciation. What else can we say? Shortened words. So a word like enough becomes one syllable. Enough. Brother, when 10 years ago, brother turned to bro, but now apparently the same word has turned to bruh. Bruh. What you saying, bruh? What are you saying, brother? Also, the end of words. So this ing sound, we mentioned it over here for something, nothing. We're not saying it. We're just replacing that. Either we're saying not. We're not saying in. We're not using it at the end of words. Wanna and gonna, non-standard examples of elision where you put going to and want to together as one word. Gonna, wanna. I'm gonna go there later. I'm going to go there later. So in this kind of accent, we always make contractions wherever we can, just to make all the sounds flow together, really. Just to make it easier for pronunciation so you can speak quickly. And the last point I want to make is about double negatives. You've probably heard that this is non-standard grammar in English to put two negative words or a negative verb and a negative in a sentence. So if you've heard that saying, I didn't do nothing is wrong, you're right, it's not standard pronunciation. But in this accent, you would be expected to always use double negatives. You would be expected to say, I didn't do nothing, rather than, I didn't do anything. People just wouldn't say that. It would sound a bit wrong. Double negatives are to be used in this kind of style of speaking. These last couple of things, they're not rules, they're just extra little things I think you should know. So we use this. I don't know why I'm saying we, because I don't speak like this, but I'm speaking as a Londoner. Ain't. Ain't means something like I'm not. I ain't gonna do it. I'm not going to do it. In it is just a way of showing agreement. For example, what am I going to say about in it? That chicken shop is bare peng. No. That's really bad. In it means isn't it? And I can't think of anything people say about it. You want someone to agree with you, say, I'm right, innit? I'm right. Isn't that true? And also, this is, you know the word text, the verb text for when you send a message to someone on your mobile phone. Well, when I was at school, this word came into the language because before that, we didn't do texting. And I remember when I was at school, when people started to use text as a verb, it was always the same. It didn't have a past tense. So if you were talking about the past, you would say, I text him. I texted him earlier. I already sent the message. We didn't say texted. And what I noticed later is that when like parents and everybody started texting, then it became texted. But many people still say I text to talk about the past. And I have to say that for me, I'm more comfortable using the non-standard way to say I text talking about the past, because to me it just seemed like other people came along and just changed the language when it was already being said one way. Anyway, that brings us to this one. Sometimes, anyways is not a standard word. You won't find it in the dictionary. It would be wrong. But in this accent, you can say anyways. Anyways, this lesson's finished now. This lesson's done. Do you get me? So what I'd like you to do is go and do the quiz on this lesson now. Am I telling you to speak like this? I'm not telling you to speak like this, but I'm pointing out something that exists if you come to London. Many people speak like this. So this is for your listening benefit if you ever come here. Also just for your general interest to know a little bit, just to even get that idea in your head that just because somebody doesn't speak correctly like the textbook, it doesn't mean that they're just lazy or sloppy. They still have rules in the way they speak. So something for you to consider.